Oh, yeah, here we go again. Hello, and welcome into Ray on Sports. I am your host, Johnny Ray. In this podcast, we talk all things sports from my own opinion. You may agree or you may disagree, but all I do is ask that you listen. So come on in, buckle up, and let's take this ride. All right, so welcome to the podcast. My name is Johnny Ray. This is Ray on Sports, and today we have another very special guest on here today. So I'm going to bring him in right now. His name is Mr. Jeremy Ryan. Hello, Mr. Ryan.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you for accepting the invite.
Yeah, of course.
Before the podcast started, me and Mr. Ryan was talking about the earthquake this morning. So if some of you guys are in LA and in California, I know you felt it. I got calls from some of my siblings that live like in Texas and stuff, and every time California shakes, they're like, "You okay? You okay? Everything good?
Right.
Your house fell down. You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." So that's how it's going. Also, Mr. Ryan, I'm also up here about the fires. So from Lancaster, you can actually see this. You can actually see the smoke from to the, I would say the south of me. You can see it coming over the mountains.
Yeah, that's scary. It's that time of year, right? We're getting into that October, November, where those potential for those fires really come through Southern California.
Exactly.
It's pretty brutal.
Exactly. All right. So, like I said, his name is Mr. Jeremy Ryan. He's been a professional surfer for the past 15 plus years. He now owns 3 businesses, a surf school and a clothing brand, and a digital marketing agency. So welcome in, Mr. Ryan. You want to, because I know it's a short bio, but and there's some more to it, but I'll let you go ahead and tell tell it in your own words.
Okay. Yeah. So I surf professionally my whole life, and now that I'm getting older, I realize I can't do it forever. So I started a few businesses. I started doing marketing, graphic design when I turned 30. And at that point, I just started my own agency. So I've been doing marketing, design, web design, stuff like that for, over 10 years. And now, at some point down the line as well, I was like, why not I just start a clothing company? I was working with a lot of, I had a lot of different sponsors, and I would go to the warehouse, pick out clothes, and I would I like this clothes, I don't like this. And I always thought, why don't I just make my own? So that's how that kind of transpired. And then with teaching, now I teach surfing. I just, it's all private one-on-one lessons. It's not like a big surf school, surf camp. So I teach everyone, but I love it. It's it doesn't feel like work. I really enjoy what I do. And I love passing on the love of the sport that I have, to either beginners or advanced high level surfers as well. And I've just still been doing the marketing. It's evolved over the years, and now it's more streamlined. It's, we can take on more clients, and so life is good. And I still have time to surf, and also just doing the surf lessons keeps me at the beach as well. So it's kind of another excuse to go to the beach and keep me there. Because really, at the end of the day, I don't want to work. I just want to surf every day, all day. Okay. That's all I want to do. Wow. I'm 45 and I still have not lost that feeling of I just want to go to the beach all day and surf and be a beach bum, so to say, right? I just want to hang out and surf and have fun. That's all I want to do. So the businesses have been allowing me to be able to somewhat maintain that in a micro level.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. So talking about surfing, because that's something I've never done, but I've seen it. I'll tell you this. I watched it during the Olympics. Okay. And I was trying to, because for me, I'm trying not to be like a one sport person, just to focus, I focus on basketball and baseball and football, but I try to, encompass more sports. So when, things come on, I'm an ESPN nut, I'm a Fox Sports nut. So I'm always on there watching, different shows, different events and stuff. So when I saw the surfing competition on the Olympics, I'm listening to the commentators and I'm trying to get, trying to understand the sport. They're saying he's waiting for it. Cause I put it like this. I was watching it and they were sitting there for like almost an hour waiting for the right wave.
Right.
So talk about that. I mean, talk about surfing in general.
Yeah. So surfing's it's a tricky sport. So, I would say it's the hardest sport on the planet. And I think golf maybe would be take second place to that. I mean, it's such, you're going against Mother Nature. So unless you're in like a wave pool where it's like the waves are the same almost every time, and now there are wave pools these days, but there's not a lot of them. So it's not like you could just go to a wave pool anytime. There's a lot of luck involved with surfing, like in competition. Like for instance, today I surfed. It was pretty crowded. So wow. The more crowded it is, the less chance you're going to be one of those people that get the waves, right? It's just, and if there's not a lot of waves coming in that day, then the odds go down even more. So, but then some days, maybe tomorrow I surf and it's pretty empty and there's more waves because of the swell and whatever, the waves that are coming in is just more consistent. Then maybe I get like 40, 50 waves that session, but then the next time, then it's like 3 waves. So it's really hard to get good because you don't have that consistency, that repetition. And so when we talk about the Olympics and that where they were at Chopu in Tahiti, like I personally wasn't a fan of that location because it is a really scary wave, and I respect anyone that surfs that wave. That wave is like life or death for sure. Okay. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you go out there, you could easily die because it's so shallow, the reef's so sharp. And when there's a lot of power, I mean, the thing there's so much weight when that wave breaks that it could just drill you into the reef. So you have to have some skills, and I respect that. But that wave, the way to do well in that contest is to make sure you get the good wave, right? Because you're going to be sitting there for a long time. And then when you get it, you just have to drop in and try to get into like a tube, right? Like when the wave barrels, I'm sure you saw some guys get barreled and come out.
Yeah.
The deeper you get in that barrel, the higher your score. So, which is the more degree of difficulty, right? More consequence. So it really came down to a contest of picking the best wave, dropping in and going straight and not falling, really, at the end of the day. Whereas for me, I've never been like a big wave surfer. I've always liked it when it's only like a foot or two overhead, and that way you can try a lot of tricks. Like I like to try airs and 360s. I like to do maneuvers over trying to get the wave of my life and like hang on and pray that I make it out and don't die. So I've never been like, I have friends that are like, they love that. Like they love when they're in the water and their body shaking with fear. They love that feeling. I don't like it. I've never enjoyed that feeling. So it takes a certain type of human to surf those kind of waves. But yeah, it's one of those sports where it's hard to have consistency to really improve on a daily basis.
Wow. Yeah. And when you talk about consistency, you're talking about the waves and consistency. Is there a better place to surf? Like say California is a good place, or Hawaii? Because people that's not actual surfers and they see it, they're the casual person and they see it on TV or they see a commercial for it, and they show places like California, Hawaii, places like that. Is there a certain place where there's a good place to surf?
Yeah, and it really depends on like skill level, right? Like, so if you're a beginner, well, I guess it doesn't matter in Hawaii. There's waves for beginners there, but a place like Hawaii is more advanced. There's more power in the waves, and it's more consistent. There's just it's an island. There's waves. At some point, you could drive to either side of the island, and because of the way the swells come, if it's a different direction, you could find a place with waves, right? California, right now, we're in kind of a flat spell, and the waves have been no bigger than like maybe waist to chest high for the past week. And there's really not a lot of places you can go. So for me, being in Los Angeles, I can drive to Huntington Beach, which is an hour away, and it'd probably be a little bigger, maybe like up to my head, but really in Los Angeles right now, it's tiny. So California is great. It's such a long coastline. there's always a different place that you could go. But yeah, I mean, most consistent waves is something like Indonesia, or like Australia is amazing. Australia just has so much surf out there. Hawaii, always something to surf. And but California has its days, and it's beautiful, and the weather's amazing. So um, yeah, I mean, it's like you just make with what you can do, right? I know guys that are on the East Coast that surf on the East Coast, and the waves are probably the least consistent there, because you have to wait for like hurricane swells and stuff like that.
Right.
But there's a lot of professionals that come out of that area, so they're getting enough surf. Like Kelly Slater is the best surfer of all time. That's where he's from. He's from Florida, so he was able to pull that off. But
wow,
yeah,
wow, that's very interesting. I didn't think about it like that. I was, like I said, I'm the avid fan, so I didn't think about it in that content. But that makes a lot of sense. All right,
so just to jump into that, so just to kind of piggyback off that, so let's say like you'd never surfed before, but you want to get into it, right? Well, then there's some place, like if let's say you lived in LA, hypothetical, and you're like, okay, I want to learn to surf. Well, there is at least one or two beaches in the stretch in like LA span that would be your go-to spot just to start learning. And then once you develop the beginner skills, then you don't want to surf there anymore, because you're just beyond that. And then there's some different spots to go to that are like your next level. So it's all about kind of finding like your level, and then where, what matches the level you're at. And that's how I do my lessons. Like I look at the skill level of the student, and I go, okay, I think we should just go here, right? Let's go to Huntington, because you're beyond Venice or whatever. So it's kind of
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And so question, when did you, because you said you've been doing it for like 15 plus years. What got you into it to begin with?
Yeah. So my dad surfed, and he never like pushed me to do it. I used to skateboard and ride like BMX and stuff. So I was always into like, I guess, solo sports kind of. I played baseball. I made like the all-star team. I was a pitcher. Like I was good at it, but I played basketball. But there's something like, it just didn't, like it was fun until I found surfing and skateboarding. And then once I found that, I was just like, I remember I played baseball, and I made the all-star team. And I remember I finished school, and it got into summer, and then summer was the kickoff of training of like the all-star league or whatever. And I did my first practice sesh. And I remember we were there, and the whole time I had all these friends that were telling me before I went, like, the waves are so good right now. The waves are so good right now. And all I could think about the whole time while I was there on a baseball field was like, the waves are going off right here. My friends are surfing. I'm losing my mind. And so I did the whole practice. I rode home on my bike. I never came back. I never said anything. I just completely, like, there's probably somebody that's like, I wonder what happened to that one kid that one day. Right. He just never came back. And I never played again. Like, just literally just like stuck to surfing. But yeah, I was 12 years old, and my dad's bored. My dad just got out of the water. And I rode like a boogie board, I just played around the ocean with my friends, and his board was on the sand, and I was like, hey, can I take it out and try it? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And so I just took it out and went in like waist deep water, and just took this little whitewash and stood up on my first wave and rode it in. I was like, wow, like that was so much better than boogie boarding. and so from there, I just my uncle gave me a surfboard, like a used surfboard, and then I just started surfing. And then and then I picked it up really quick, and like a year later, maybe like a year into it, there was a local surfboard shaper in my town in Port Hueneme, and he had been watching me like surf and progress. And then he asked my dad, he's like, hey, do you mind if I make him a surfboard? And he's like, no. So he just started making me free boards from like a really young age, and he just made me a ton of boards over the years. And that's how I got the bug of like, oh, I can make it as like a professional or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's cool. That is so cool. Now, when you talk about making surfboards, because I'm trying to get to the questions that I have, but you opened up some more topics to me. We talk about making surfboards because I bowl. So for me, they make the bowling ball for you. The way you bowl, how you bowl. If you're left-handed, right-handed.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
See that. See, we're learning from each other. So in bowling, they have what they call house balls, which is the balls that the place has. Those are called house balls.
The ones that I've used.
Yeah, exactly. So then you can order your own balls. And I don't know if you've seen when the guys have the balls that hook and curve and do all other things.
Yeah.
So you can order your ball, and some shops will say, well, how do you throw it? And then they'll customize your ball, or whatever ball you buy, they'll customize. It's I don't know all the aspects of it because there's a lot to it. It's like they talk about oil patterns and where you throw it. It's a lot. But I learned a little bit because I do bowling tournaments in Vegas, and there's a shop out there that every time I need a ball drilled, which means putting holes in it, I take it to him, and the guy says, "Well, let me see you throw it," and I'll throw it. He's like, "Okay, let me fix it for you," and he adjusts it for me. Yeah, so I'm assuming surfing is the same way when you get your board done. They customize it just for you, correct?
Well, you can, yeah, you can. It's it's the same with like that or golf clubs or whatever. You can buy them. You can buy them off the rack. You can buy a board off the rack, or you can get it custom made. And when you get it custom made, there's a few factors that are really important, like your height and your weight are two that are very crucial, because if the board's too thin, it's going to sink. And if it's too thick, it's going to be too buoyant. You're not going to be able to like turn the board and dig the rail. So there's a thing that's really popular these days called volume. So they take I don't even know exactly how it all gets calculated. I just know what my volume, like I ride between 28 and 29 liters. Okay. And that's just evolved over time. But I don't know why that is. But yeah, so everyone has certain dimensions too. So my boards are a certain width that I always stick to, 19 inches wide, no more, no less. That's what feels comfortable. And I go 6'0" to 5'11" tall. The rest of the stuff and the thickness 2.5 or something, right? And that's it. And the rest of the board, the design, that I leave that up to the shaper, because there's so many different shapes and variables and curves. It actually gets really frustrating because they pump these boards out with machines. They cut the foam. It's just foam. So they cut the foam with a machine, and then they take it into the sanding room, and then the shaper will clean it up and then take it to the glasser, and then they put fiberglass on it and resin, right? You'll have a board that you oh my God, this is the best board I've ever had. This is the board. And you give it to your shaper, you say, please match this to a T. So they punch it in, they put it in the computer, it spits out a blank, cuts it out. He does his thing, he gets it, you get it a month later, and the board is terrible. Doesn't write anything like it. And it's so crazy because you'll hold them and you'll look at them it's the same board. And then it can come down to the way the foam was blown when they were creating the blank. There's more air pockets within the foam. It could change the way it feels. It's the smallest little changes, and it could be so frustrating, Wow. Yeah. So it's a pretty wild craft, shaping boards. I've always thought about maybe should I shape my own boards? And I thought I'd probably just drive myself insane trying to do it.
Wow. So, and it's, it's kind of, I'm thinking it's kind of parallel to bowling, because I've heard guys that bowl say the same thing. If I get my ball drilled here, it's different than if I get it drilled here, and they said the things, because the things you just said, they're well, I have a ball and I give it to the guy and say, here, make it just like this one. And they make it and they throw it. They say it's not the same. There's something wrong. Crazy. So I guess it would be parallel to that. For me, I'm not a professional. I'm okay. I have my bad days, I have my good days, but I know guys that do it, and they'll be sitting there going, Johnny, if you throw it like this, and I'm like, throw it like what? And I'll throw it, and he'll be like, yeah, just like that. Throw it again like that, and I'll throw it a different way. He's like, why'd you throw it different? I'm like, I thought I threw it the exact same way I threw it the first.
They're so technical, huh? They're so on it. Yeah. That's how
they're well, And then my wife, she does it too. So they were like, well, you count the boards. And I'm like, count what boards? I was like, what boards? He said, the boards in the lane. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, well, count over from here. And that's where you throw the ball at. And I'm like, okay. So I'll throw it. And he's like, there you go. Now stay right there. I'm like, you know what? Next time I get at the bowl, I'm not going to remember that. I'm just going to throw it, and wherever it goes, it goes. But I can understand what you're saying about surfing, how it can be frustrating, doing that. That, like you said, you get your board done and you get the exact same one and you go out there. How do you tell the difference when you get out there?
Oh, it's crazy. I can tell the moment I stand on it. I can just,
really?
I can just feel it. But on the flip side of that, what's interesting is I've had boards that I've tried, and the first session I was like, this board's a lemon. Like, this board sucks. And then I'll put it in my closet, put it in the garage. I'll start riding another board for a while. And then one day I'll just be kind of like, I want to try this board again. This board looks cool for today. And then it'll ride amazing. So a lot of times boards will, depending on the conditions as well, will perform better. So like there's like step ups, a thing called step ups. Mm-hmm. So for a wave like Chopu, where they have the Olympics, you want a little longer board because it paddles in better. Wow. You want one more rocker. If the waves are small and kind of weak, you want a flatter, shorter board. So depending on the waves you're surfing makes a huge difference in the type of board you're going to be riding. So it's not just like one size fits all. So it's pretty interesting. And that's why I always go back to like golfing, because it's my other sport that I really like. But like, you don't get a chipping wedge when you need to drive the ball, right? It's kind of the same thing. Right. So that's why most surfers that are dedicated surfers, you want at least 3 or 4 boards in like your quiver. That way, depending on the waves, you know which one. Okay, this board's going to work good because today's small, so I'm going to take the small wave board out. And then you kind of just have a few boards, that you can choose from.
Wow. Okay, yeah. So this is Johnny Ray on Sports with Mr. Jeremy Ryan talking surf and bowling, because it seems like they're almost. But okay. So, and how much time do you have? Because we got a couple of things to talk about.
Yeah, I got time. Yeah,
okay. So let's talk about your entrepreneurship. How is it running 3 companies?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. I've had to pull back from some of them temporarily to kind of get other things in place. Like I said, with the surf lessons, it doesn't really feel like a job. It doesn't take that much time away, because like I said, when I do a lesson, I'll usually just go surf. So I'll make that like part of my surf day as well. So that's not too bad. The clothing line is probably the hardest to grow, being that I don't have investors. Everything comes out of my pocket. So I make small runs, I sell it, I flip it, put it back in, and just try to keep the system going. But, with clothing, you really have to continuously be marketing, continuously be putting stuff out. Otherwise, you just, people forget about you. There's so many brands out there. It's crazy, and you could go to Ross and go get some really good stuff for like dirt cheap. And so there's a lot of, it's a tricky thing to kind of grow a brand, I feel like, in this day and age. So I do that. That's more of like my passion project. It's more of like my fun project that I do when I need that creative fix and I just need to do some design work and just do that. So that's more of like, if it blows up, that's amazing. But I'm not grinding on it 8 hours a day. I'm just strategically doing little things here and there. And then with the marketing, I'm really just focusing on as many automations as possible. And then I do have a small team that when I start to get backed up with work, I can move some of that stuff over and have other people on it. So it's not bad, to be honest. Like I feel like I'm at the point I could probably take on another 10 or so clients and still be able to fully maintain, but then I'm going to have to start expanding. Yeah. So I'm kind of like right on the cuff of like expansion and figuring out bringing people in and stuff like that.
Okay. And your lines, the lines that I think you have are your design business is Subtide.
Yes, Subtide agency.
Okay, and your clothing line is Ruette.
Ruit. Yeah.
Ruette, and your surf school is SPF Surf.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about the entrepreneurship. How does that get started, and how hard was it to get started?
Yeah. So like for me, like I said before, like all I want to do is go surf, right? Like that's
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I just want to surf, and be at the beach and enjoy life. So when I started to pursue being a professional, that was the the reason for it. I didn't do it to like be famous and be this, oh, I'm the man. I just wanted to be able to go surf and get paid to do it. So I had companies sending me around the world to go surf, and it was amazing. But then as I get older, I know it's not reality forever, right? Like there's going to be a
Right.
time where the younger kids are going to take my spot. So I was like, what kind of work can I do to where I can still maintain some freedom, some time freedom, so I can go surf when the waves are good. And when the waves suck, I just work, like and have a nice balance. So that's why I was like, okay, well, anything I can do from the computer is pretty much going to help me. I could be a digital nomad and be able to travel around the world and still work, and surf and make money. So I went to school for design, and I had the goal of doing my own thing, but I got out of school, started a design agency, and like I didn't have any clients. I was like, okay, now what? So then I ended up going, okay, here's the problem. I don't have any clients.
Okay.
So I ended up working for this marketing agency that was kind of in my area in Westlake and or Newbury Park. And so I went and worked with them for like a year and a half, and then I really started to understand the inner workings of the business and and how the team worked and everything. And so at that point, then I ended up leaving them, and then I restarted my own thing again. And
Okay.
then I started to figure out, okay, I was getting some clients, but it still wasn't enough. And so I did side jobs. I worked like part-time at like FedEx, part-time at doing home inspections. Like I was doing part-time stuff, but still my dream was like, I want to just do computer work because I love
Right.
doing it. And then then that's when it kind of clicked, is like, well, I'll build a website for somebody, and then I'd say, okay, goodbye. And then they disappear, and that's it. And I'm like, what's
Mm.
missing here? So that's where I really went, need to find a way to drive people to the website. And
Right.
this is when it all kind of came together, where I can, okay, we can build you a website, but what we can do the best is we can help drive leads to your website and then convert them
Oh, wow.
into paying customers. And so that's where the focus is now, is like, we still do websites if you need it, but if you have a website, even better. And we're just going to
Mm.
help you drive leads and build your business. And so that's just so much more profitable for us because it's more of a long-term relationship and ongoing, work with the companies. And so that's where we're at now. And it's definitely like monumentally better business model, you know?
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
cool. Wow. I can relate to what you're saying about building, building brands and building. And I don't want to talk too much about me because it's about you. But I do live streaming for my church,
Oh,
and
nice.
church is church, but it's also a business as well. So there's a business aspect of live streaming. Like you said, building a brand. How do you bring the viewer in? How do you keep them? How do you do all these things? So I end up being the live streamer, the website person, the media, Instagram, whatever, social media person, all that. So I'm learning that side of the business as well as how to draw people in without giving them, I guess we'd say, gimmicks, something substantial for them to hold on to,
Yeah.
not just some one time pizzazz. I guess I would probably say like something like, if you're building a brand and you're saying, well, this month you get 75% off everything,
Yeah.
and you're driving all that business in, but then next month when everything goes back to regular prices, how do you keep those people,
Right.
after that whatever that promo is, or after that, how do you do that? So
Right.
when you're in, how would you do something like that? How do you keep keep them in?
Yeah. I mean, one of the best ways is probably like, instead of going 75, just do 50 and then run it for 2 months. Right. So it's kind of like, you have to keep making it good enough. Don't make the deal so good to where you're losing money just to get people in for the short term, right? So it's like creating that value, that community value, and the culture, more of a long-term play. And then the consistency. So like
Mm-hmm.
automations are key. If, as far as when it comes to, like, let's say social media, like you should never be on social media posting yourself ever. Like if you're doing that, like that's a huge
Really?
time waste. You should be setting it up in a system where you can set it up manually for, like, spend like a day or two and set it up for the whole month. And then now you
Mm-hmm.
have consistent posts going out that are scheduled, and then you can focus on the other stuff. But it's all about consistency. So whatever that is, you just have to be consistent, because the moment you stop, and I learned this with the clothing line, like I had a lot of growth the first and second year, and then I kind of got a little bit of burnout because I was doing free giveaways every week, and I was doing all these different things. And then the
Mm-hmm.
moment I stopped, the hits to the website stopped. Like
Wow.
that's it. Like if you're not popping up in people's faces consistently, they're gone. Like someone else is doing that. And so it's really comes
Right.
down to like your bandwidth and how you can set that up in an automated, some kind of scheduling. This is just like mainly social media, but like goes for the whole business, like whether it's newsletters, which newsletters are amazing. Not if businesses are doing those properly, but like consistent newsletter, consistent social, and have that automated. Spend a week or two just setting them all up for the next few months, and then you just know you have that stuff in the background, and then you focus on the in-person stuff that you can do. But it's a lot of work at first. Like the setup is always a lot of work, but it'll save you so much time in the long run. That would be my advice for that. That's
Wow.
that's what I would.
Wow. That's good. That's great information. That's great information. You guys hear that out there? Don't give everything away.
Yeah,
That's
bits and pieces for long
don't give
term.
right. So and so we're talking when you talk about that the giveaways and stuff like that. That's more of a like a supply and demand kind of thing, correct? Like
Yeah, so I mean, like
you giving
like for
away
me,
too
I
much.
was like for me, this is what we're doing with the clothing line. We're doing every week. I would pick a T-shirt or a hat, and I would post
Okay.
it, and I would say free giveaway. I would have a few to dos like tag and like tag a friend, something like that, and just by doing that, and then at the end of the week, what I did was I put all their names in a hat, and then I went live
Hmm.
and I just like pulled one out and opened it up. So it was there was a bit of like a community there too, bit of luck, kind of a fun gambly kind of thing. And what I found that was really interesting is a lot of times, like, because I'd get like 50 to like 60 people, that would do it, and it would be all my close friends, like all the close friends and followers, and then there'd be like
Hmm.
maybe 5 to 10 new friends that got put on from the tagging, right? So every time I
Right.
did it, like we'd start to gain some followers and start to build that momentum, and then those people on the next one would like tag somebody. So it was a cool way to kind of engage. But the thing that was cool that I found is like a lot of times, like we'd pull the winner, and then right after that would be announced, somebody that was on the list that didn't win would go and buy the hat anyway, because like they're like,
It's a nice hat. Yeah.
you guys are giving stuff away for free. I might as well represent, right, or support. But
Right.
they were waiting to see if they don't have to pay. But then when they did, they're like, well, it's a dope hat. I might as well just buy it,
Right.
right? So that was
Right.
kind of one cool thing that I really, I feel like I need to get back to doing it. It was just a lot of work, and I just, oh yeah, honestly just got burnt out on doing it. I did it for like a good couple years, every week for a couple years, and it was just like, but
Really.
the moment you stop, it's crazy. The moment you stop, you
Wow.
lose that traffic, you lose that momentum. So whatever you can do on a
Exactly.
consistent
Exactly.
basis, you just got to keep doing it.
Wow. Now, so
So yeah.
if people go to your website, Jeremy on life online, is it Jeremy RY and life.com? Is that where they can find all your information
No,
at?
yeah, jeremyryanlife.com. Yeah, Jeremy
Okay.
Ryan.
Okay. Got it.
JeremyRyanLife.com. That kind of has like everything.
Yeah.
So you kind of click on whatever I'm up to.
Okay. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Got it. And I'm gonna definitely check out your clothing line because that's awesome. I love that. I
Yeah, check
love
it out.
that. I love it.
It's super cool. I have some really good artists. I have one artist is a buddy of mine, Evan Mendel. Like a street artist and graffiti artist, and he does some amazing stuff. And we've done a few collabs, so he's got a few designs in there that he's done, and he's blowing up in the street art world. And yeah, it's just super super cool. A couple other artists on there, a couple that we're about to launch. We got two more artists that we're bringing on. So we're just trying to like bring on like cool, unique artists, and I mean the whole thing around the brand is it's I don't know if you checked it out at all, but it's just the whole meaning of the brand is to be true to you. So whatever it is that you do, whether it's bowling or whatever it is, doesn't matter. Just do it because you love it, and just don't
Mm-hmm.
do it. Don't try to follow some trend or do whatever because someone else is doing it. Just do what you love because life's short, And if
Right.
with the letters, if you flip the letters around, it spells true. And so there's a lot of
Mm.
meaning behind
Okay.
the brand that I just haven't. If you go on the Instagram, you won't see it like branded that way yet. Just been
Mm-hmm.
trying to like perfect it over the years to really find a way to really send the message. But that's the whole meaning of the whole brand.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna definitely check out the brand because I might get some stuff myself. I love it.
There you
I
go.
love it. I love trying on new brands. I love, because I'll try a new brand and I'll put it on and I'll wear it, whatever it is, and somebody's like, "Where'd you get that from?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a friend of mine. He got it." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, cool." So we helping each other. We building each other up.
I'll send you.
And that's
I'll send you a gift card, and you can just get whatever you want. Just let me know.
cool. Hey, I think I love it. I love it. And if you want to sponsor the show, we'll do that too.
You talk.
Okay, so talking about your surf school, how did that get started?
Yeah, so I was in like a transition phase where I was like, I'm doing the design work and I'm surfing and I recently moved to LA. So a few years ago, moved to LA, and from where I grew up in Oxnard, Ventura, California. Up there, there's a lot of really good surfers. It's a little more underground, a little more low key. Come down to LA, I was surfing. I'm like, wow, like I was like, everyone here needs a lesson. Like literally,
Wow.
like 100 people in the water and just like chaos. Like people are running each other over, and I'm just like, what is happening? So different than where I grew up. So I was just talking to a buddy of mine. My buddy does he does like business consulting and stuff and life consulting, and we're just like having a chat. And he was like, "Why don't you start teaching?" And I was like I don't want to teach like beginners. I did like some stuff with Red Bull High Performance. My buddy
Mhm.
runs that program for the surf team, and so I got to like kind of do some high level stuff. But I was like, I felt so kind of above like teaching a beginner and like just like doing it in LA and like that kind of thing. And then COVID hit, and so when COVID hit, everything shut down. There was nothing for like none of the parents were sending the kids to camp or anything. There was nothing they could do, and the beach was like the first thing that kind of opened up. So there was a bunch of moms in the area in LA that were like, "Oh, can you teach my son or my daughter?" And then I finally was like, "All right, I'll do it." And then I remember the first lesson I did was with this little girl, and I remember I pushed her into this tiny little whitewash. It was probably like this big, like I think she was like 9 or something. And I pushed her into the whitewash, and she stood up and rode it. And I remember seeing like the look on her face of being so happy from that experience
Wow.
that I just like fell in love with it, because I don't get that feeling anymore. Like I can go surf and do like a 360 air, and I'll be like, oh, that was cool, and I kick out
Mhm.
and paddle back out. Like I don't. I've done so many things, in the water for so many years. I'm jaded, right? But to see that was super cool, and it kind of brought me back to my childhood when I was younger. And so then I kind of just fell in love with it, and then I was like, all right, I'll start doing lessons, and then it just blew up that summer. And I was like, every day I was
Wow.
doing like 2 or 3 lessons a day. I was like, wow, this is crazy. So then I just ended up starting the surf school, and yeah, that's kind of how it started. And now I work all different levels. I have beginners, intermediate, and advanced students, but yeah, I love it. It's super fun.
Wow. And it's always fun when you teaching something that you love. It makes it easier to
Yeah.
teach. Now, do you
Yeah.
have okay? So let me ask you some of the hard questions for parents. Do you have any children that like or get like petrified once they get out there? That they think they want to do it, and then once they get out there, it's like they freeze up or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything you could think of, I've had it. Like there's some kids that are fearless and they just have no clue how dangerous what they're doing is. And then there's some kids that, or not even kids, there's adults that I've taught and they're like terrified and it's like a 1 foot wave. And I'm just like, you're fine. Like, don't worry about it. So it's a mix, and really like the way that I do it is just, I always come into my every lesson to understand the student prior to going out there, like prior experience,
Okay.
kind of get to know them a little bit, like have some empathy for them to understand like where they're coming from and where their mental state is, because that'll completely change the way I do the lesson, depending, because I don't want to scare them, especially a kid,
Right.
like a little kid. Like I have a son of my own, 21 months, and I'm not really even thinking about trying to get him in the ocean yet, because I don't want to like freak him out too soon,
Right.
so, and I've seen kids get really freaked out and then they don't come back. So it's really important to understand the student and really see where their mind is,
Hmm.
So, and
Okay.
if they're too crazy, you got to like tell them, like
Yeah.
give them some
Reel them
danger,
back.
like tips. Yeah. Like, hey, this could not be good right there. So
Reel them
it
back
works both
in.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works both ways.
So I think I would be that student that had that traumatic experience, because me, I don't swim. So I'll tell you, we went to where was it? We went on vacation. We went on a cruise, and I think we went down to the Caribbean, the Bahamas. I'm sorry, and they had jet skiing. So they were like, okay, we got get on the jet ski, ride around the ocean, all that stuff like that, right? So I'm like, okay, cool, got it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, the jet ski's parked at the dock, and I'll just jump on it and ride. He's like, oh no, you got to swim out to it. I'm like, okay, thank you. Took the vest off, put the vest down.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm good right there, because I
Yeah.
had that traumatic childhood experience where I was in Texas with my grandparents, and I think my grandfather used to go fishing a lot, like freshwater fishing. And so the place where he went, we had to like go through a forest or something like this. Seemed like it took forever to get there. And we got down to this water, and I was on the bank of the water playing, and he kept telling me stop playing on the bank of the water. And so I played too much and I fell in. And so, the sand is right there, and I'm trying to grab the sand, trying to pull myself up, and I couldn't pull myself up. And I think that like kind of traumatized me a little bit. And he pulls me
Yeah.
out. And of course, what he says is, "Nah, we got to go home. I can't fish no more." It wasn't, "Hey, grandson, you okay? You feel all right?" It was like, "Man, I can't fish no more." I was like, you know what? But for me, I think that's for me. That's what it is. It's just a trauma thing. So I would be one of those people that you know wouldn't venture too far out. I would try it, would want to try
Yeah.
it, but I wouldn't venture too far out because of the trauma from that. So how do you
Yeah.
how would you deal with something like that?
I mean, if you really wanted to surf, I mean, obviously, I could take you out today, go surf. You won't be in water that's over your head, so you wouldn't have to swim. But if you
Okay.
wanted to, let's say you wanted to become a surfer and eventually surf on your own, then you're going to want to go farther out there eventually and surf, and you will have to swim at some point. Like your leash could break, or just when you fall off a board, you got to be able to swim to your board really quick or whatever. So, but like you could just be on the inside where you're standing, where you could touch and ride the small waves and still do the sport, like, but, yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend like having some basic swimming skills if you surf, because you never know what could happen,
Right. Right.
and but again, most of the kids that I'm working with that are really young, they're not going out past their head in water. They're like waist deep to them maybe, and I'm pushing them in tiny little waves where if they fall off the board, they can touch, they can stand,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
Now,
where, yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah,
So with the surfboards, and I noticed that with surfboards they have the thing on their ankle that's attached to the surfboard. What is that for?
the leash,
Is that
yeah,
just
just so
the
you don't lose the board, yeah. Because you know,
Okay.
because
Okay.
yeah, I mean, surfing, you're gonna fall a lot. You know,
Okay.
if you're trying to progress and get better, you should be falling. Like if you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough. So
Right.
you want to be, you don't want to fall every wave, but you want to be pushing it a little bit, you know. And so the leash
Right.
just kind of helps you so that it's also really good so you don't hurt people, because you know one of the scariest things is when you're paddling out and there's waves coming in and some random board is floating in the wave coming down towards you, and if it's a
Oh
big
wow.
board, like it could hit you and hurt, like it mess you up. So you know, it's kind of, it's safety. I always find it safety, and then also just so you're not having to swim in and get your board every wave, you know, if you fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the? I know you probably have a bunch of stories about surfing, about things that happen out there. What's the craziest thing you've seen out there surfing,
Seen,
or experienced that happened to you?
I would say probably this kind of the craziest thing I think I would say was when I got attacked by a seal. That
Really?
was that was probably the craziest thing I've ever encountered. Like I've seen sharks out there. Luckily so far I've never been like felt threatened by seeing a shark. Like I never had one like coming towards me or something.
You
But
guys
I've
hear
seen
this?
big
He just
ones.
said, you just hear this, guys. He just said, I don't feel threatened by sharks. You heard that
No, I haven't had it happen yet. I still get out of the water, but like I haven't. Yeah, I mean, like quick story. So I was in Australia. We surfed this spot. We were out there competing, and there was a group of us that we all went out there to Australia for like a month, and we surfed this spot in Western Australia. Never surfed it before. A lot of guys. There was a lot of people out, and we were just out there. It was like one of the only spots that were breaking in that area that we are at. And so we surfed, and I had a weird feeling the whole time when I was out there. I don't know if it was because the waves were a little bigger. I don't know if it was because, I don't know, new location. West Oz is kind of creepy looking, the way the water, it's like a deep blue. There's rock everywhere. It's like desert. It's kind of like you're out there. But I just had a weird feeling the whole time when I was surfing. And then we got out, went to go get lunch, and then heard later that afternoon that someone got eaten by a great white at that spot.
Wow. Wow.
So I don't know if it was out there and I just was feeling it and I just didn't understand what the feeling was. But like, so there's been a couple like weird close calls like that. But the seal thing was crazy because I was surfing, I was surfing at this spot. It was in Oxnard, and there's a jetty and a harbor. So I was sitting next to the jetty, and I was sitting the farthest out, just waiting. It was flat, like what you saw at the Olympics. And I was just sitting, waiting for the next wave. It was totally flat. There was a bunch of people out, but they were kind of behind me. And we're just sitting there. I was just sitting by myself, and I see this seal pop his head like pretty far away, like 100 yards away, and or 50 yards away. And I see it like pop up, and he's kind of looking towards us, and he's kind of coming our way, but really slow. And we see seals all the time, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I see seals every time I surf. Like it's not like anything. And so I remember just sitting on my board, I'm watching it, and it's still coming. It's getting closer, and I'm just looking at it, and it's like, you know, 30 yards away, 20, 30 yards away, and it's like gaining speed, and it still looks like we're locked eyes, like we're looking at each other, and I'm like, it's kind of weird. And things just getting closer and closer, and then as it's starting to get like, you know, 10, 15 yards away, I hear someone like go, what? Like people are kind of tripping out, like this thing's not stopping. It's like it's been going from a long ways up there all the way here. And then as it got to like 10 yards, it just started going faster and like lifting his head out of the water. Like it was like charging at me. And I was like, what the heck? So it gets to like a few feet from me. It's still going. And I just see like him, like, he's like, his head's sticking out, and he's like gaining all the speed, and the water's coming like that. So I was like, whoa. And right at the last second, he comes and then just like shows all his teeth and just lunges up at me. And I lean back on my board. Mm-hmm. So I have my board like right here, and he jumped and I just went boom and hit him in the face with the board so hard.
Wow.
And then he went under and everyone was like going, oh my, I could hear people over here, but I was like looking, and then he popped up right here and like snorted at me. And so I like splashed that. And then I just started paddling and he went back under and everyone freaked out. Everyone was like paddling in and I never saw him again. But like that was probably the craziest thing that ever happened to me, like with animals in the water. It was nuts.
That is crazy. Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. I've heard of people getting bit like in their feet. I've never heard of like an attack like that from the seal. It's so crazy.
Wow. Yeah. And you don't know what, and nobody ever knew why he did it and why he came up like that.
No, wow. I mean, I just look at it like, look, there's some asshole dogs out there too, right? You're walking down the street. There's a dog that might bite you just to bite you. It's got to be the same with seals, right? They're just dogs in the water. So they can't all be nice, but most of them, they seem like they're cool. Like but now every time I see them, I always when I'm sitting on my board, I always put my feet on the board and just sit up a little higher. And I'm just like, I don't know about you.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
Wow. Well, this has been very fun, Mr. Ryan. Very fun. I enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about surfing. Learned how to attack a seal.
Yeah. Defense.
It's
Still
really
defense.
Cool. Defense. Still defense. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. But Mr. Ryan, before you go, is there anything else you want to add, or anything you want to promote, or anything like that? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anyone is in any need of some kind of marketing, or even just wants to have a conversation around it, if any questions, like feel free to reach out at subtideagency.com. My number's there. You could just shoot me a text or call. Surf School is spfsurfschool.com. And then Ruick Clothing is the clothing line. So yeah, I mean, and I'll just leave with this one last thing, and this goes in based off of the clothing company, is just like, just be true to you and be yourself and do things you love because you love to do them.
Wow. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule, your busy surfing schedule, to come on, to talk.
Yeah.
Because I had speaking of, loving what you do, I got to go bowl tonight. So I appreciate you, taking that time out to talk about it. Are you going out tonight? Are you going to go surf some more?
No, I got some work to do. I surfed earlier today, so I'm back on the computer, get some work done.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Ray on Sports. I am your host, Johnny Ray. Once again, we have Mr. Jeremy Ryan, professional surfer turned entrepreneur, on today. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on this podcast with me. If you miss any of it, you can catch me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Buzzsprout, and any other place where you get your podcast from. Once again, thank you guys for listening. Take care, and God bless.